Hello. Have you ever gotten the giggles at exactly a wrong time and a very inappropriate time to be giggling? Well, first I got to tell you this Bible story. Um, we know that Moses, with the Lord, had turned the rivers and the waters and the streams into blood, and then he turned Moses' rod into a snake that ate up all the other snakes, so-called snakes. And now the Pharaoh's stubborn again. He said, "No, I will not let your people go." So they were very discouraged again. And Moses and Aaron were out. And this is I'm surmising this, walking along the river, and the king, the Pharaoh's looking out his window, and he sees him down there. And they look up at him, and he says, "No, I'm not going to let your people go," even though he was very annoyed before. It wasn't enough to do anything. And so Moses told Aaron to stretch out the rod over all of Egypt, over all those lakes and streams again. And so he did. And all of these frogs came jumping out of the water. All of a sudden they decided they wanted to have sunshine or something. The rivers, the lakes, the streams, everything. The frogs, millions of frogs, came jumping out of the water and into people's homes. They were going in their doors, even the Pharaoh's palace. And the frogs came in and they were jumping into bed. Pharaoh says, get these frogs out of my sheets. And into the cooking pots. Everywhere. People couldn't walk without stepping on frogs. Ugh. And the Pharaoh just was beside himself. And this plague lasted for a long time. Finally, the Pharaoh just said, "Go get Moses." And he said, "I'm sick and tired of sleeping with frogs at night. I'm sick and tired of having spaghetti a la frog in my soup. Do something about it." And so Moses said, "Okay," stretched out his rod again over all the land, and the frogs all died. Died, lickety-split, right on the spot. Well, that's fine, except now the Pharaoh had a big cleanup job ahead of him. So people, and he had his men and everybody shoveling frogs out of houses, shoveling frogs out of camel parking lots or whatever they had, shoveling frogs out of everywhere and putting them in big piles and burning frogs, dead frogs. What a mess. And it reminds me of one time. How much time have I got? It reminds me of one time, my husband, this is before we had any kids, my husband and I were sitting in a little church that was just getting started, and we had folding chairs. And the preacher was up in front talking. It wasn't about Egypt or anything, but all of a sudden, I was sitting on the aisle, and all of a sudden, down the aisle beside me comes this frog jumping right up toward the pulpit. There's a bonk, 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 like he knew where he was going and he had a destination. He started giggling. I couldn't help it. I just thought, "Oh no, Lord, help me to stop giggling." Well, that caught over onto Dennis, and we were both sitting there watching this frog loping his way up to the pulpit. And we finally settled down, and the frog went behind the pulpit. But it just struck us funny. And then there was one other time, talk about inappropriate times to giggle. My daughter Sarah, this is when we were at another church in Texas, and my daughter Sarah and I were sitting together, which is not a good idea if you're going to try and be serious. And we were listening to the message, and a lady came in late for the service, and she came in and sat right behind myself and Sarah. And I think Sarah was a teenager. And this lady evidently didn't have breakfast that sat behind us. And her stomach was growling. And it wouldn't quit. And being the wonderful example of a mother that I am, my shoulders started going, and Sarah too. She heard it, and our shoulders, we were trying so hard. Oh, please have it be time for prayer, so everybody closes their eyes, but it wasn't. And it just, and we were sitting kind of in the middle of everybody, and so I told Dennis we were leaving, and I said, we got between the people, we said, excuse us, and we just had to go outside, just laugh our eyes out. But when I hear the story of the frogs, it reminds me of the giggles, and I'm thinking of Pharaoh having a frogs in bed with him, and he's trying to sleep at night, pounding on his pillow. He doesn't know if he's pounding on a frog or not. Anyway, he was so upset, and he begged. This time he called for Moses and Aaron. They didn't have to ask. So he begged them, please stop the frogs, and they did. But they had a big cleanup after. Oh, I've gone over time. Okay, talk to you next time. Bye-bye.